I've got a confession to make.
I need to get this off my chest. As a business owner, we all make mistakes.
I've got to confess.
Welcome to episode 3, Kim Barrett. We made it, man. This is it.
Episode 3. It's technically our second time there, but it's great to be there in the first official time.
Absolutely. So to recap on that, we looked back and we did record, our first 3 episodes, and then we scrapped them because we weren't happy with the format. So in redoing that in the way we're doing things now, I'm certainly much happier with the way we're doing it. How do you feel?
Yeah, I think we've got a much better format now, and I think it's just going to help people tremendously, but also it keeps us on track as well. It's a much easier model to work with for us as well.
Absolutely. Now, I will say this is that in last week's episode, me and Kim both actually hired new people for our teams, which is super exciting, isn't it? We do I love it when I get a new person. So we're going to be doing an update on that at the end of the episode. That's when we're doing that. So for those of you that listened to the last episode, that's where the new update will be coming from. Now, I want to talk about this week though, because this is the way we're always going to be leading our podcast here. Kim, it's your turn here to go first. What's been happening since we last recorded?
Well, I feel like I've probably, since we last recorded, just been flying the whole time, pretty much. That's kind of what it feels like. I went from, I was over in Mexico with our friends and family, and we went from Mexico City to Dallas to Sydney to Singapore to Bintan Island. So it's been a very long kind of couple of days. So I think we kind of last time caught up at the tail end of last week. And it's been a busy week. We've had a lot of stuff going on, a lot of different things happening in the business. The most exciting thing, though, actually happened last night, and I think Charlie will really like this, is that from last night at 10 p.m., I am officially a Lord. I am officially Lord Kim Barrett. So
what's happened? I need to know. What give me details.
So last night, when we were in Mexico, when we were coming back, right? So we're traveling, and I've spoken about this in our, I think it was the secret episode 2 we haven't released yet. That wasn't not our real one, but it was travel hacks. So I was looking up at like the different opportunities on how you could get upgrades on the flights, because, for example, American Airlines and stuff like that, I don't have points or anything like that with them, so I couldn't just upgrade really easily. So I was like, what are some of the guaranteed ways to get upgrades? And they're like, well, normally if you're like a doctor, a lord or lady and things like that, then they actually, they treat you in a different way, and there's a possibility for upgrades. So then I remembered back to a couple of years ago, I was looking up how to become a lord. And basically now I own a piece of land in Scotland, in a place called Glencoe, and I'm officially Lord Kim Barrett of Glencoe. So I thought I would get that to test when I'm traveling, when I'm at hotels, when I'm going through customs and stuff like that, to see if I get treated in any different way. So last night I discussed it at dinner, and then everyone was like, well, you better go do that. So then I was like, okay, cool. Did it quickly on my phone while sitting downstairs having a drink. And then I got my official confirmation so that I can change my name to Lord Kim Barrett. So that was...
that is the best thing I've heard in a long time. That is so good on so many levels.
So I was pretty excited. So last night we were doing that and we were joking. I was like, nah, screw it. I'm just going to do it and buy it. So I bought it. Now, officially... a lord. So that's been exciting for the last 24 hours for me. So it's been
These are the moments life is for. Like, I really look at it and go, don't get me wrong, like, it's nice to have different types of goals, but it's moments like them that really kind of make life. Like, that is something that will be discussed forever. And like, literally this can go on your tombstone, Lord Kim Barrett.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
This is, so that is amazing.
Yeah, so that was pretty cool, pretty exciting. But on the business front, it's been this week has been, since we last caught up, it's been quite busy. We at the end we'll kind of touch on that, but we had a new staff member come on board and things like that. But we kind of hit a new, not a problem, but a new issue to overcome, which is that the from the week before, my sales guys were absolutely dominating. I think this week they've only really done one sale. So I'm still not sure what the issue is, because the leads haven't changed. Nothing's really changed in anything else at all. They actually had more appointments this week than anything, but the sales has gone down. So it's very interesting. And now I've got to figure out kind of after this morning, I've got to go back and look at some things and try and identify and see what's caused that to happen, because it's it is the time of year that I want to be ramping things up. So I've been need to try and figure out, what happened there. And we also had we ran a small introductory event for people to come along and find out about our business. But the place, so we did that previously 2 weeks before as well. So we said we'll do another one, and we used we wanted to support a co-working space across the road from our office. And we said, cool, we'll come and do our event at your place. How much is it? Like $300. And I was like, oh, it's actually double the price we paid for a very, very nice venue 2 weeks before. But they're across the road. We'll see if we can do some business together with them and whatnot. Let's test it out. They went to set up the event. The guy sent me a photo of the event, and it was dark. It was like 7 p.m. and the whole room was dark. And I was like, are you guys doing like showing a little video or something? Or he's like, no, that's how dark the room is. So people couldn't even really see their paper. They're trying to take notes, write things down. They're like trying to look at their piece of paper, trying to write really close up. And it's like they couldn't even see their paper. And it was Perth, and it's now, end of November. So it was like 34 degrees, and the place didn't have aircon or didn't turn the aircon on or something like that. So it was a bit of a catastrophe in that regard, because not only could people not see anything, they couldn't, they were hot, and then that correlated in a very poor sales performance at the end of that introductory event as well. So that was a little bit of a kick in the pants, because the one that we did the 2 weeks prior worked quite well, all things considered. But this one, there was like a number of different factors. There was another big online marketing guy running an event the same night, plus, just all the other issues. So, that's been another cat amongst the pigeons there. So I've been really working on that side of things. And then lastly, the other thing which I'm really excited about is the new Facebook creator. Now, I'm not sure if Charlie, if you saw when I did a post up in one of our groups, but that got me very excited, because I've always trying to find ways to level up my live video, to make sure that I'm ahead of the curve when I'm putting stuff out. And it's just so much cooler. So you can add like overlay images, text, banners. You can put in intros, outros. Every time you do a live stream, it automatically plays an intro for you and all this sort of stuff. So when I saw that was really, really, really cool. So that got me excited. And then lastly, is that I got confirmed that I'll be going into Facebook Singapore headquarters on the way home. So they've got a really big office there, which is the biggest in the whole Australasia region. And it's the only client-facing one where you can actually go in for a tour, walk around. Sydney has one, but it's more so sometimes they do little events there and they invite you in, but you can't really go in and look around or anything like that. So
let's be honest, it's a sympatty office. They put that there for show. It's
just to say they have an office in Sydney, pretty much. But
absolutely.
So that's the other exciting thing, is that we'll be going in there and recording. One of our friends lent me his little handheld Osmo camera, so I'll be going in and recording a bunch of stuff in there as well, which would be cool.
Wow, man, big week, huge week. So I need to go back because there's lots of questions I want to kind of dig a little bit more into. So the first one I'll go with is the Facebook creator. I actually think that is going to be a really, really big thing in Facebook land, because they had to find a way to kind of level up the lives and the production quality. And it's good to see they're doing that on the front there with the intros and everything like that. So I agree with you on that one. That's going to be huge. When do you think it's going to become mainstream? Do you think this is going to be something they roll out more heavily in the next few weeks, few months?
Well, it's pretty much available for everyone now. The only thing is, I don't think that they're going to be pushing it into the main live app, because the reason it was created is to try and grab people from Snapchat and YouTube. That's what they created it for, is to try and grab the influencers, the content creators, to push more onto the Facebook platform, from what I could see and read. So basically, and running ads for it, like that's where I first saw it. And I was the first commenter on the ad, and I quickly saw it, registered and got involved with it and tested it out. So that they are getting it out, but it's more so for, I don't know that they're going to be trying to push it to every person that's doing lives. It's going to be kind of if you're a creator, you'll probably see the ad. When I looked at the targeting, if you create video content or you follow video content really heavily, you'll see it and you'll be able to get a hold of it. Or otherwise, if you hear about it from places like this, then you'll kind of be getting amongst it as well. But I don't know if they're going to be rolling it to the general mainstream for lives. I feel like they may not do that, because it'll probably be to be honest, too heavy on their back-end servers with adding intros, outros, and banners for every single person doing lives. But those of us those in the know will be able to take advantage of it for sure.
It's crazy. It's like, I'll go into that comment a little bit more. I know someone that has access to people that are very high up in Google AdWords. And one of the things I thought was fascinating is they decide what features they're going to roll out based on the amount of temperature their server room increases. Because if their server temperature increases, that means an increase in cost in air conditioning. So the cost of, let's say, rolling out a new type of ad is not so much the feature itself, it's the cost of running the massive amounts of servers required across everything. So undoubtedly, Facebook are thinking the same, and how could they not? The other side of things is, I wonder if it's really a tool aimed at the more business side of things, which is very, very cool. If you're a business owner right now, undoubtedly you are getting spoiled with all kinds of awesome stuff from Facebook and YouTube. And I much like your approach, and kind of like you want to be ahead of the curve, because that's where it's at, in my opinion anyway. Now, I need to go back even further now. So you mentioned that this event was a bit of a disaster, and it's like, I can imagine the frustration, because if you do everything right in getting people there, it can go pear-shaped in these situations. But the thing that fascinates me here is, this is a co-working place here. Yeah. Like, and you're putting business owners in a room in a co-working place, and that's how they're treating them.
Yeah. So I was very frustrated. I don't know what the outcome is yet. I said I had a few choice words with my office manager for her to pass on to them, but I actually haven't heard any feedback yet. So this was pretty much exactly a week. So I feel like they may be getting a steamy phone call from me over here in Bintan Island today if I haven't heard back, because it's super frustrating. And originally we were going to do a deal with them, or we'll help them with some marketing, and they were going to give us the room, and they're like, no, we don't want to do that. So I was like, cool, well, we'll pay for it. Expecting good, because we paid double what we paid at another venue. So another venue, we paid the same amount, but they gave us access for 2 times. And it's like a place called the WA Club. And Charlie, actually, I think you're in Perth when we're running an event there for clients, or invite you down, you'll see what I mean. But it's like penthouse floor, views over the whole of Perth, private bar, really nice, like just spectacular. And we paid double the price to go to this co-working space. They didn't even have aircon or lights at work, and everyone's in the dark. So I was very frustrated when it came to that.
So, I mean, I won't even go in further in this, but let's just imagine something like you're putting on a business event, and the objective here is to engage with businesses and really have them have a great experience with your company. And in one hand, we've got no aircon, dark room, overall not a great experience. And on the other hand, for half the price, we've got penthouse views made to feel like a VIP, and everything sitting over there. I have a feeling I know which one might work out better.
Maybe.
But it's so good you're putting thought into the customer experience, or the client experience, or the lead experience, whichever way you want to look at it, because I think everyone can pay attention to that. If you can be kind of upskilling the experience you're providing to your leads or clients or anything like that, there's a huge opportunity for more success. So I think there's a massive lesson to be learned on that one, as well as how selectively to pick your joint venture partners.
Yes, definitely. There's a few things in place now for checking venues and going there at the time of the event, not just going there, because we went there because they were across the road, but we've never been there at night, because we've had no reason to go in during the day. It looks great. Nice, bright, airy place. Not sweltering hot, but yeah, then when it comes to running it at the event, it's definitely now on our event checklist to make sure that we go to, it's a new venue, we go there at the time we're going to run an event in as close to conditions possible to ensure we see anything, any issues, any potentials, even from, things like parking, anything like that can change during the day if you're not aware of it. So I think it's very important, and we almost ran it in our office, which we would have, there's a few things that led to that. We just didn't have, we had to try and organize chairs and things like that, which we didn't have the time to do. So we didn't do it that way, but that was where I was leaning towards. So we ended up going across the road instead because the other place was actually booked out for the time we needed it. But yeah, we definitely have it on our checklist now to make sure that we go there at the time we're going to run the event, and as close to the conditions possible to make sure that we foresee any other problems that could happen and we can take care of it beforehand, as opposed to just, hoping it's going to be okay.
I really like that you've grown from the experience. Like you've gone, right, well, these are the things that went wrong. And then instead of, putting the blame on other people, just going, how can we own this? The extreme ownership method that we've kind of referenced before of saying how can we take full responsibility for this to make sure it doesn't happen again? Because you can't do anything about the night. It's already happened. Although I'm sure you've probably got some ill feelings, maybe some meditation or yoga would be suffice. But I think there's a huge thing. If you grow from that experience and take all that on board, all your future events are going to have much more success. Now, the other thing I've got to loop back to here, and I think I've already found what I want you to, divulge on next week's episode, is I want you to discuss what you found in going through, why your sales are down despite having more appointments, how you digressed it, so how you decided what the issue is and then what you're going to do about it. And I think that would be really, really valuable for me more than anything, but I'm sure others who are listening to this would get some value out of it as well.
Yeah, definitely. I'll have that because I'm breaking it down pretty much today, tomorrow. I'll be breaking that down and checking it out. So that's high on my list. So I'll be doing that, and that'll be definitely my end of episode report for next week.
Excellent. I look forward to it, Kim. That's going to be mad.
Yeah, it's awesome. Now let's flip the switch over here, Charlie. Tell me, how has your week been? I know you're looking a lot more rested than last week, but what else has been going on?
Yeah, definitely. I must admit, I'm a little bit nervous today. Now, for anyone watching the video, you'll probably see that I'm very well shaven and even groomed compared to last week. And I'm actually speaking at an event in Melbourne today. So I'm doing a presentation on outsourcing and virtual teams. So this is all about virtual assistants and setting up people, let's say in the Philippines or anywhere in the world. Though I must admit, the butterflies in the stomach are definitely there. I'm not a nervous speaker. It's something I've been very fortunate that when I was a kid, I used to play in bands. So I'm quite used to, kind of in performing in front of other people, but it's still nonetheless, it's a little tweak up on that. So good video day for me. I'm clean shaven. But it certainly reminded me in this experience of when you're putting together a presentation, and that's something we may even divulge a little bit more in our association Mastermind group, but how important it is to be so on cue with what points you want to be across. So when I sit there and think about this presentation, I'm like, what's the real impact? What do I really want people to walk away with? What's the transformation? So I'll give you what I've come up with. So the overarching theme is that I believe most people don't really know what they're doing when it comes to VAs or virtual stuff. I see a lot of it done very poorly. Now, the problem with that is I see a lot of business owners just want to blame the staff. They just want to go, oh, it's that person in the Philippines or it's that person in India or whatever like that. And, through my experience of owning Outsourcing Angel with Lynn Padetti and us seeing it is do you know the amount of times I've seen someone going, this VA is terrible. And then we give them to someone else. And then the report on that VA is, this is the best VA I've ever had. And it's same person, often in the same week. And always the thing is that I find it very interesting in that situation that the business owner will go, well, look, it's the person in both cases. So this is the best VA or this is the worst VA, even though it's the same VA. So the transformation I want to give people is realizing it's you. It's completely you. how you communicate, how organized you are, how you set up your systems and process, how much thought you've put into what to do before hiring someone is where that gap is. And again, like I'm very, very fortunate in the position I'm in is like I've seen and done this so many times for myself and with other people that I really want to kind of change that. And I've created a whole process for it. So that's what I'm going to deliver today. Sound like madness?
I think it's going to be good. Now, my question to you is on that though, because I know that, so there's normally, when you speak at events for anyone listening, you normally have kind of two positions that you could be. You're like keynote and content deliverer, or you're going in for content, but also sales. That's kind of like the two positions that you get brought into speak at an event for. Now, obviously I know you're keynoting at this event. So for you, what's the end outcome for yourself and Outsourcing Angels at the end of the event? How are you going to best leverage going there, speaking, the crowd, the audience, because obviously they're all going to be ideal clients for you. What is your strategy and thought process behind that?
That's a really good question. So, in the effort of full disclosures, we do work with Think Tank, which is Liv Jones and Trav Jones, and they actually pay for services like they are a client of Outsourcing Angel. So they have the staff and work with us, and they've been, I'm guessing, well, based on this, happy with the service because we got the invite. But in this environment, and this is something I'm really shifting towards, is like I actually have no sales plan. So my whole thought process on this is that I'm just going to go up there and give like as much value as I can on the topic. And if someone does want to work with Outsourcing Angel, that's fantastic. And they will get the value and everything that comes with it. But on the other side of that, if someone wants to go and let's say use a service like Upwork or anything like that, if they have a better experience with the information I've given them, then that's fantastic. Like I'm really happy that I would have had that type of impact. So from my point of view, it's like, I totally get where you're coming from about like the strategy into making sales, but my belief system is more kind of shifting towards like authenticity and value, meaning that if it's like the natural progression for someone to come and work with us and it's a great fit and we provide them value and they create value for themselves, then that's a win. But as for like trying to hard close on stage with like slides, value stacking, I'm not going to do that stuff.
No. So that's what I mean. So let me rephrase the question, because you're going in as a keynote, so you can't do that anyway, right? So you would, and I'm assuming they probably wouldn't have positioned you to do the hard close or the stacking or anything like that anyway. So because you're keynoting, my refined question is, how are you going to ensure that they stay connected with you so that if they do want to use your services in the future, because you give them so much value that they can, are you going to be directing them to your free Facebook group if they want to stay connected, to the website for more information? Like, because obviously I don't know, but I'm assuming you're probably not inside their community. So they're not exactly going to see your name regularly to be able to just reach out directly. Like, how are you going to keep the lines of communication open so they don't forget about Outsourcing Angels?
Oh, that's a good question. It's a very good question. So the good news is we are actually connected to their community. So as a part of doing this, I've recorded a whole bunch of videos as backup material. So like something that's really common, like even I'll say this, is how often do you go to a keynote, hear these awesome things and then forget most of it because you got excited by something else or you met someone? So all of the keynote I've recorded into separate videos already, and that's uploaded into their community and website so that people can re-engage and remind. And that will obviously have contact details for Outsourcing Angel if someone wants some help, or maybe they've got a question, or maybe they do want to use the Outsourcing Angel service. And if that happens, fantastic.
Okay, cool. That's the answer I was looking for. So that's great, because that's when I've done keynotes before, and that's something that I've done too, is said, like I did a presentation on bots for dance studio owners, went through the whole thing, and at the end I could see all of them were super like excited but also stressed because they're like, I have to go figure this out now. So I actually gave them some of my training videos on how to create their own bots. From that, I ended up getting 2 or 3 sales because I gave them access to my training as a bonus as well, to kind of add value to the person running the event, because I want to build a good relationship with them. So I gave them that too. So that's what I really wanted to hear, was how you're staying connected, because I think sometimes, unless you're a Gary V and you got paid $100,000 to go and do this keynote, you still want to make sure that you have the opportunity for them, if they do want your help, because I'm a big believer in the value too, that you stay connected with them somehow. So yeah, it's really good to hear that you've got that, and that's been provided. Because I think sometimes, if you're listening to this podcast and you've wanted to do speaking or you've done speaking, you still need to make sure that you best leverage your time and get the most out of it that you can, still providing a tremendous amount of value, but also making sure that you do have the opportunity for them to stay connected. Because it's the same thing I do for most. I don't pitch at very many events, maybe one a year, but at the other ones, I always try and make sure that there's a way for them to stay connected, to be intertwined in my community as well, so I can still give them value, so that when they're ready to buy, if they do want to use my services, they can. Because a great quote I saw in a presentation yesterday was that people buy when they're ready to buy, not when you're ready to sell, right? So I'm ready to sell every single day, but not necessarily is everyone ready to buy. So I want to make sure that if I am, if they're in a cycle and a process, and they just hear about outsourcing, and I give them a tremendous amount of value and they really enjoy it, then there's the opportunity for when they're ready to buy, if I'm their chosen provider, that I'm still there.
That is such a good saying. I love that quote, and I love that thinking, Kim, because that's so true. It's like, for whatever reason, let's just make it you might be ready to sell, but what if in an extreme situation, someone's just split with their partner, or they've just moved house, or something happened in their family or business or whatever it is. Like, even doesn't matter how good you are at closing, like on those days is not the right day to be closing people in those situations. It might be the right fit for them, but it definitely is a really good view and idea to take on that. So, I mean, you can even look at this deeper and going, like, if you're going to be speaking at events, or you want to get into more speaking, like I know it's something we both do, is like, this is where the structure of those joint venture deals and how you're working with other businesses is. You've got to put a little bit more into the thinking and planning. Because I can certainly relate to that story. I've had, that thing happen to me as well. I've gone and spoken to an event. Everyone's rah-rah and happy and thrilled with my performance, of course. How can they not be? But then on the back end of that is, life got in the way and they just weren't ready at that time. Not to say it wasn't right. And again, I want to make sure I'm being really clear on only speaking from a position of value here. Like, me and Kim both heavily don't want to close people or not work with people that aren't going to get value from what we do. So it's all about, that ethical line of just making sure that we're keeping things open and doing the right things for everyone to get a win out of the situation. So this is actually something we've been talking about a little bit as well. Like, one of the new courses or programs we're going to put together is on joint ventures. And I think this is a really important thing to include. So I'm going to do a bit of a shameless plug at the moment and go, look, we are doing a community or a mastermind group, whichever way you want to call it. It's called The Association. It's about associating yourself with the right people. And one of the things we do is we have this training library we've been building on some fantastic topics. But the request we are constantly getting is about how to set up, find, and structure joint ventures, because that's something me and Kim have both done a lot of. Even this podcast right now is a joint venture project. So that'll be coming soon, because the demand is growing. And that point you just mentioned there, I think, is so important about structuring things to be in line on that front.
Yeah, and it's good. And obviously, the people that you're working with have been doing this for a long period of time. Amazing people. Really great guys. So it's not surprising that they've kind of set that up and brought you in there as well. So, I think it is cool. And as you say, in the association, something that we heavily believe in. And I always like to think about, and it's always, the age-old quotage is, you start with the end in mind. It's like, yes, it's tremendously awesome to go and give people a ton of value. Sometimes you may even get paid to go and give them value, but value for value's sake is not value. Just going out there and yelling on a street corner, telling someone how to outsource and get a virtual assistant has no value. So they may all get tremendous value from you yelling at them on a bus, telling them that they should, get an assistant and outsource their life. But if they're not ready for it, and if there's no purpose, there's no point in providing people with value, because it doesn't do them any benefit. And that's why I always like to think of, when people say, I'm going to do this, it's like, cool, but why? Like, I want to give them value. Cool, but why? What's the end outcome? And you kind of you keep have that questioning, then it comes back to the core crux of why you're doing it. It's like, well, have you really set up what you're going to do to achieve that outcome? So we were talking with a guy yesterday who's plug for him, Daryl Urbanski. So I've actually been on his podcast. He's a great dude, and he would talk about, you know, how much money he actually wants to earn and why he wants to do it. And he's like, look, I don't need tens of millions of dollars. He's like, I need this amount of money so I can live. I want to own a gym. I want a restaurant, have kids, an enjoyable life, and live in Asia. And, you know, I don't need tremendous millions of dollars. But if that's because I ask myself, what do I want and what do I need and why am I doing it? And it's this. And, you know, he's famous for working with John Assaraf and helping him make $100,000 a week. But that's not what, you know, Daryl wants. So, you know, he's, you know, living in Asia, super fit, ripped dude, like martial arts guy, CrossFit, and enjoying and living life. And he's like, at the moment, my focus is staying super healthy, have plenty of money in the bank, enjoying life, and and setting up what I want to do with my kids. So it's always so interesting, I think, to always bring it back to going, cool, like, what do you want and why do you want to do it? Regardless of anything that you're doing, whether it's a speaking gig, an ad, a joint venture, and making sure you know what that's like, why you're doing that. And then it just makes everything else easier. It's super easy to make a decision when you know why you're actually doing it, and not just the surface level, like, why that you would just tell everyone.
Well, it almost needs to be like past the money. It needs to be like the specifics. So money's a very, I'm looking at it now, like money's a terrible goal. Like whenever I speak to people and I go, you know, what are your goals? And they open with 10 mil a year. I'm like, oh, you really might want to spend some more time here. There's more to life. There really is.
Yeah, 100%.
Now we need to flip topics again here. So I tell you what, after hearing that, I will report back on how the speaking gig goes. That will be next week's thing, how the keynote goes. Hopefully, actually, I'm not even going to say hopefully. It will definitely be a story of how I absolutely rocked the house. Maybe, we'll see, which is all cool. But something I want to cut back to now, Kim, is in last week's episode, you mentioned that you'd hired a new girl. Now, you've already mentioned some little hints that sales are down, but how's it all going?
Well, I cannot put the crux on her that sales are down, but let me give you this little nightmare scenario on, what day was it? Saturday. So I'm Sunday in Australia, Saturday in Mexico, sitting there doing a bit of work, send her a message. I go, cool, you got all your logins, you're all sorted, ready to rock and roll. We use a platform called close.io. Really, really cool platform, works tremendously well if you have a sales team. Working through all that. And then she's like, yeah, so, and she's been doing some calls in close.io for another friend and business associate of mine, and cleared all that with him first. And she's like, yeah, I'm going to help him with it. He just has a few calls for event bookings in the evenings I'm helping him with, and then I'm happy to work with you. So yeah, all good. Ready to rock and roll. And she's like, yeah. So I was like, so what's your process been with him? Like, how have you been using Closio? Well, she's like, well, I open it up on my computer. I go through it, but my microphone doesn't work on my computer. I have an old PC. So I pull it up. I then pull out my phone. I dial in the number. I call. Then I make notes on the computer of what that call was like. It doesn't actually track the call because I'm calling on my phone back and forward. And I'm like, that is the most inefficient way to do things. And she's like, well, look, you know, the reason I'm doing this is I'm wanting to earn more money. I want to do this, but I don't really have the funds to buy a laptop or anything like that. And I was just like going, wow, that's going to be so inefficient. I'm not going to have actually any of the recordings. It's going to be down to hearsay on what she says she's called. And I absolutely trust her, and I know she'll report properly. But if I'm trying to pull reports in Close.io and see like how long spent on the phone and all these other statistics I want to measure, it's not going to work. So on Saturday, I said, look, as soon as she said that, the whole time I pulled up, while she was typing her responses, I pulled up eBay. I started looking for a laptop, and I was like, cool. And I already had her address from when she filled in her staff form. So I was like, look, you actually have a laptop on the way. It's going to arrive on Wednesday. So I need you to use that, because I can't have you operating such an inefficient manner. It's just not going to be good for anyone. And she's like, oh no, I can't. I can't do that. I can't take that from you. I was like, look, you're not taking it. It's a loan. I'm lending you a laptop, but I'm ordering you one right now because I can't have you, like, you know, because considering now how good it is on eBay, you can buy a laptop. Didn't need to be anything crazy. Like $200, including express shipping to the outskirts of somewhere in Victoria where she lives. Get it done. And I was like, that spending $200 there, I know she'll make more efficiencies in a week than $200. And day one, 2, and 3, where she's operating in the most inefficient manner possible, we set her a KPI of doing 200 to 300 dials per day was her KPI. And day 1, she messages me and says, Kim, I'm super sorry. I didn't want to really start out this way, but day 1, I haven't hit my KPI. And I was like, okay, like your KPI was 200 to 300 dials. How many did you do? She's like, I did 40. And I was like, 40?
Ooh,
40 dials. Right? So I was like, well, okay. But what was the end outcome? And she's like, 15 appointments. And I was like, 15 appointments? Why don't you start by saying you booked 15 appointments in a day? Like, that's tremendous. Like the week before, the girl that she replaced couldn't get 15 appointments in the week. And I was like, look, if you only can speak to dial 40 people in a day, but you make 15 appointments, that's okay with me. We can adjust your KPIs slightly there. That's not a problem. So she's actually, all things considered, actually been hitting it out of the park. But one of the reasons is, and I'll report back on this more next week, is a lot of the appointments that we have, because when she really hit her stride was kind of like Wednesday, Thursday, today, are for early next week. So one of the factors I think is in consideration with the sales is that she's calling all the people. Week before, the guys were calling everyone because we didn't have an appointment setter, and they were setting some of their own appointments. She's calling everyone, but the vast majority of the appointments are booked for Monday, Tuesday next week. So I think that is going to kind of have a little bit of a lag effect, because the guys aren't calling everyone because she's calling them. They're only dealing with their own leads that they're managing. So I think that may have a slight effect on sales, but for all intensive purposes, she's actually been performing really, really, really well.
Isn't that interesting? Now, I mean, I've got a comment to make here, because I got served this one as well. Is like, your KPI in this case didn't actually serve your business goal. Like and I'll give you an example, is that number of dials doesn't actually change the bottom line of your business. It's a great indicator, but it's not necessarily the KPI we should be using in this case. If we just go solely on appointments booked, that serves you.
But it's because we adjusted the KPI based on the previous person. So the previous person had a KPI of number of appointments per week. And then we're going to test her and said, if we take the number of appointments off the table, she wasn't booking a high enough volume, and we just focus on number of dials, how will that affect the number of appointments? Because we worked out that for every 21 dials she did, she made an appointment. But she wasn't doing enough dials in a day, and we have plenty of leads for her to call. So we switched it for her, and we left it remaining to see how it would affect the new person. So we switched it for her to go do 200 dials in a day, and you'll get 10 appointments, as opposed to trying to get 3 appointments a day and 15 appointments in a week. So when we switched it for her and left it remaining, because as well, I also wanted to scare off anyone that applied. That if you don't want to do, I think we mentioned this last week, if you don't want to do 200 to 300 dials, then like don't apply, is basically the way, because it's the KPI on there. So she was happy to do that. Didn't hit it, but she was happy to do that when she came on board. And then we did get the end outcome, which is the number of appointments. So now from next week, her KPIs will be adjusted to be booking probably 10 appointments a day will be her new KPI, which she will hit this week, and we'll just adjust it for her next week. But at least she knows she had the opportunity to be scared off by the hard work, but she stayed, and she's actually achieving the goal we want. So we'll have to adjust it. But we did have a little bit of issues there, having KPI set for the previous person who then came in, that then we will adjust for her. So it's been a very, very interesting one, but so far so good. But we'll see what our appointment show up rates like early next week as well.
I really enjoy the amount of tracking you're going to here. And I think all the thinking that's going into this is just so solid. So I actually have no doubt you're going to have a good amount of success with this, as long as you continue on being metric focused and solution focused, which you clearly are. And yeah, absolute winner. I'll even strive for that. So what was it? 14 out of 40.
Yeah, she got 14 out of 40 on the first day. So I was just,
appointment setters, listen up. The bar has been lifted. In personal experience, I haven't seen it that high. So I think that's a fantastic result at this stage. But here's the kicker. I certainly have known with salespeople or appointment setters is they can often be excited and great in the beginning, but in 3 months' time, it can be it's a challenging role. I'm not going to say it's an easy job. Getting up and dialing every day is hard, but a sustained period will be very interesting to see how this all measures up.
Yeah, because then I have that at a very high level of awareness. So my idea is, and we'll probably refine this over time, is that once we get over the initial hurdle, we get great rock up rates, we've got lots of appointments coming, is then we're also going to tie a bonus based on the number of sales the sales guys make to the appointment setters as well. So what we're going to do is give them an override to keep them motivated, because if you're just dialing in, it's literally pretty much like dollar for dial. You can lose some of the excitement, but then, and that's why I think sometimes the commission-only sales guys have the excitement, and it's the ups and downs, because it is, you make a sale, you get all this stuff. You don't make a sale, you get nothing. It's like a roller coaster, but the appointment says it's like book appointment. There's no like excitement, or there's no, if you look at all this, the 6-7 human needs, depending on what you follow, there's not necessarily that level of growth and things like that. So we're going to be trying in, and she doesn't know this yet, but once we get her to a sustained level, it's going to be cool. Now you'll get like a 1% override. Every sale the salesperson makes, you'll get commissions based on that. So to re-incentivize them and reinvigorate them kind of at that like 2 to 3 month mark.
I think that's a really important thing as well. We've got to incentivize our staff and support them in much ways. And you probably laughed about this. So my team, do you know what they want as their incentive for the end of year finish?
I don't. Tell me. I'm excited to hear.
Cryptocurrency. So everyone's on board, and the feedback I've been getting at the moment is that if we all do a really strong December, everyone will be getting a crypto bonus. So a little bundle of cryptocurrency is the exciting thing at the moment.
Everyone gets 0.000001 of a Bitcoin. Enjoy, everybody.
But it's good. You've got to keep the incentives there. So that, man, I tell you what, we're going to have more episodes on this and how you digress that whole thing, because this is the effort you go into setting it up, using some awesome tools, but now you've got to find a bug in it. So next week's episode is going to be, I think, a killer. It's going to be a really great topic about understanding how to go through your whole sales process and find what's not working. So that will definitely be something I look forward to hearing more about. Yeah,
it's going to be good. But now, I'm excited. How is now? Because I think you had potentially 2 new hires last week, but I think there's one that's brought on to mostly your internal team, right? How, if I remember correctly, you alluded to a she several times last week. So I'm excited to hear how all that's been happening.
Yeah, well, her name is Lisa, so I'll stop calling her she. She's definitely a real person. don't think anyone likes being called a she. But on that front, yes, two new hires in the last week. Now, I came out of a training program last week, and on the back of that, I'd spent quite a bit of time kind of working on my vision and goals for my life. Which can be really great to do these things in that type of environment, because I think it can be hard to think bigger than you are if you're in your normal office or environment. So on the back of that, I went, right, I'm much more clear on what I want to be doing with my life and business. And to do that, I need ballers around me. Like, there's no more sitting on the fence. I need the best of the best around me, supporting me to get here. Which in another episode, I'll divulge that vision. Now, one of the first things I did, which I sat there and I'd hired this person, I had this moment, and I'm sitting on my couch and I'm like, oh shit, I have not put nowhere near the thought into this hire that I normally would. Like, I have an outsourcing company. That's what we do, is hire people. Like, I know how to do this. And it's always worse when you know better. So I decided to spend some time and going, right, you really need to help someone here, or help yourself really, in making sure it's clear on what you want from them, what the goals are, and really what the vision is. So something I'll point out to a lot of people at this stage is that often your staff have no idea what you're trying to achieve. You think they do, but they don't. They don't think like a business owner. They're in their own little box, worried about their own world and making what they do better, just like you are. So what I decided to do was record a massive video, and I made up a massive chart in a Google Draw, and I said, right, this is where I want to go. This is my vision. This is what I need you to help me achieve. And I made this video and I sent it over, and I got some feedback on it. And it was really outstanding, because now I feel really understood. So this new person that I've hired, which is a senior position working with me, this is someone that I literally want to be pretty much attached at my hip of how close we are, now has a very clear understanding of where we're going. And not only that, the things she's brought me in this last week, the things Lisa has brought me in last week, I'll try to stop doing that, have all been in line with that. So she's going, right, well, we want to do this. This is the part that bolts onto that really well. Have you thought about it? And I was like, no, I have not thought about that. That is a great idea. So the big lesson for this week and what I've been kind of reminded of is like how important it is to share what you're really trying to do with your people and have that diagram. You know, once upon a time I used to think all that mission statement stuff was crap, like having a vision is crap. Like, you know, you just have your goals and you write it. But it's like more and more and more, I see how important that is for culture. I see how important it is to have people included and have it all set up so that we can be, like, as I said, like an absolute, we're trying to come up with a cool name for the team at the moment, I should say as well. But it's like, let's say in Defense Force terms, is like, I'm not just trying to make like a, soldier. I'm trying to make like a special operatives team. Like I want us to be like the Black Ops version. Like we are totally a well-defined, well-trained unit that just does like all the baller stuff. So that's what we're striving for. We're striving for excellence. Oh no, it looks like I've lost Kim Barrett on the end of this call.
I'm still here, Charlie. Don't fret. I'm here.
Oh, I was worried for a minute there. Can I just get you to repeat that? I didn't hear that bit.
I just said I love it, and I love the Black Ops terminology as well. I'm sure you guys will come up with a very cool name for your task force. So I'm excited to hear about that as well. But that's cool. So you're excited to hear as well how that continues to go over the next months, weeks, years, all that sort of stuff too. So very exciting times ahead.
I'm thinking big, man. I'm thinking really big here. So I'm keeping it a little bit close to the chest at the moment, but I definitely will be divulging what that vision is in some future episodes. But Kim, I know I've already held you over time for a meeting you've got to get into. So what we'll be doing here is we're going to wrap up this episode. We're going to call it a day. Do you have any final things you would like to let the listeners know before we move on?
Well, I think what's important to let listeners know at this point in time is that really, as we've mentioned, there's so much cool stuff going on, and we pretty much are nearly at capacity for our founders in the association. So I think we still have a couple of spots left. So if anyone is interested and you're enjoying hearing what we say, you enjoy finding the behind the scenes, and you can imagine, obviously we're giving you guys the full, backstage VIP pass here. So you can only imagine what we share in our association group with our association members. One of them is actually over here with me this week as well, which is very, very exciting. So if you're loving what you're hearing, please do check out the association. We've got so much cool stuff. We alluded to it last week. Charlie and I will be doing the secret handshake episode coming up very soon, where we'll be developing that. We've got some very cool other ideas that Charlie and I have to talk about as well when it comes to some of the, I don't even know what you call it. Not paraphernalia, maybe it's paraphernalia, different things that we'll have inside that will, identify, association members. So it's very, very cool stuff coming up. So, if you are loving it, please do check out the association. It's a phenomenal group, and the feedback that we're getting from the training, the feedback that we're getting from people in there is great. So, you definitely want to get amongst it.
Yeah, it's been really good fun. I'll endorse that as well. Obviously, we're heavily biased. I will say this, though. It is our community. But certainly something we're putting a lot of effort and energy to. So check that one out. Special handshake or secret handshake for the association episode coming soon. And that will be released. So that's it for this episode. Tune in next week as we talk about, or maybe we'll announce that later.
Until next time, adios.
I've got to confess.